My mother and father seldom talked to each other, and when they did, it was bickering. Each of them emotionally harassed each other. My father would stick up his nose to my mother and tell her she was snooty. His reason was that my mother's older sister, Zelda, was very well off financially. On the other hand, she would harass him on two counts. One was that he had borrowed $2,000 from my grandmother to start his business and never pay it back. The other issue was that he quit his job at the Michigan Cleaners. Oh, my mother's cousins, when the truck drivers went on strike in 1930 and the owners hired Al Capone as goons to break it up. My father couldn't stand that, so he opened up his new shop, new store, and struggled all his life to make a living. If he stayed with the Michigan Cleaners, he would have had a lot more money, but he had a strong sense of fair play, and he couldn't do that. So typically on Sunday mornings, we'd be sitting in the living room listening to the radio or something, and my mother would say to my dad, "Why don't you go play checkers with Elliot?" And so he did, and he always beat me. He seemed to glory in the fact that he could beat me. When I was about 9 years old, we lived in a two-bedroom apartment in South Shore, and I suffered from insomnia. So sometimes I heard my mother and father in their marriage bed harassing each other. I used to have nightmares. We had a window doorway in the kitchen, and I imagined that somebody was coming in through that door to attack me. Another story about me. When I was around 6 or 7 years old, my mother had some friends over, and she said, "Elliot has an inferiority complex." Well, in retrospect, I think she intended to use that as an excuse for my being quiet, which I was. But my message was that I did have an inferiority complex. I think that was part of the reason that I frequently was depressed. And of course, the next part of that story is when I was released from the hospital at Lutheran General Hospital after having 2 weeks and having 6 shock treatments. Mother found another psychiatrist who interviewed me one time without seeing me. He went just by my hospital records, and he told me that I'm probably bipolar. Well, I may be. I'm certainly not now, I don't think, because I'm getting medication for it. But I question if I ever was. I know I have variation in moods. Sometimes I get very angry. And I can remember a couple of times, 2 times, that I might have been described as manic, but I've never done anything crazy like some manic people think they can fly and jump out of the window. My father began to mellow a little bit when my brother Ray came back from Korea, and we went to look at a car, went to the automobile show to pick out a car. And that's when my father told me the only joke he ever told me about a man who goes to buy a car, and there's a beautiful girl in the car, and he asks the dealer, "Can I take that girl with me?" And he says, "Okay." And then in the car, the guy whispers something to the girl, and she says, "Oh no, you got that when you bought the car."